join me from my home here in Groby. I'm Councillor Martin Cartwright. I've been your Borough Councillor for the last 16 years, and I would like to thank all the people that have voted for me in the past and would continue to do so in the future. I'm seeking a new 4-year term of office on May the 4th. I think it's really important that a local council lives and works in the area they represent. I've lived in Groby for the last 37 years and my business is based here, selling and repairing domestic appliance washing machines. As you can imagine, over that 16 years I've had tens of thousands of conversations with people, and they're all, each and every one of them is very rewarding. But it's the big issues I'm going to focus on today in my election address, and very shortly head out on the road to highlight some of those to you. These are issues that are either ongoing now, have recently faced Groby, and indeed are likely to do so into the future.
So I've moved outside now and to what is the biggest issue facing Groby right now, and that is the separation between Anstey and Groby and the vista across to Bradgut Park. Because if IM Properties were to get their wish, they want to develop all of the land around into a business park. Last year, when IM Properties asked Groby residents what they thought of their proposals, over 1,000 people were in touch with me saying they didn't like their proposals at all. In fact, not one person got in touch saying they're in favour of their development. I have a large database where I'm able to keep people updated, but sadly GDPR doesn't allow me to pass that on to anyone. If you think this issue has gone away, then I'm afraid that's not the case, because just recently you may have seen the works going on in the fields behind it to carry out a biodiversity survey and survey the land, all the stuff that IM Properties need to do in order to work up a planning application. This will be the biggest issue facing Groby in the next term of office. But let's take an aerial view as to what land is affected by the proposals.
So my election address obviously focuses on the issues that are affecting you right now, but equally there's a lot to celebrate about Groby, not least the centre of it. This spot has featured in all of my previous election videos and literature, so I just wanted to drop this into the election address this time around because it's a particularly iconic part of Groby. I'm stood outside Flaxfield Close on Pimley Lane where an operator wanted to put a 5G mast. If you look at the house that sits alongside me, it would have been 2.5 times the height of that and would have completely ruined the vista up Pimley Lane, and even more importantly the vista across to Anstey Lane and Bradgut Park that we've just been talking about on the IM Properties site. Fortunately the Borough Council turned the application down, although that wasn't the end of the story, because having been refused their planning permission a couple of weeks later, contractors turned up with a digger parked across the road here. Residents notified me, I was able to get down immediately and stop them actually completing the works. But so desperate were they to put a 5G phone mast in this location, which was completely inappropriate and refused planning permission, they turned up and tried to install it anyway. As you can see, they weren't successful, and residents are happy that the 5G mast was refused in this location. It's not that we don't want good mobile communications, it's got to be the right mast in the right location at the right time. I'm stood in another location bang opposite Brookvale campus where the same mobile phone operator we've just been talking about wanted to locate a 5G mast. The problem with this location is it's actually the lowest point in Groby, so it was going to be ineffective in any event. In actual fact, their own application said it was an unsuitable site, yet they still went ahead with it. All of the trees, I don't think the applicant really realised this, all of the trees surrounding us have TPOs on them, which was going to seriously affect any viability to the phone mast. Brookvale campus is directly across the road from me, and they were very much against the mast too. So having been refused the first time around, the mast operator decided we'll have another go, but this time we'll move it nearer the road and actually just reduce the height slightly. He didn't address any of the issues I've just spoken about, And again, thankfully, the Borough Council turned the application down, and as you can see, no mast is located in this location. I reiterate, we're not against 5G masts, but it has to be, the harm has to outweigh, the gain has to outweigh the harm, and here the harm was far greater than the gain because of all the issues I've just pointed out to you. I'm up now on the A50 at the entrance to Bradgate Stables, a listed building that's really important to Groby. Over recent years, the deterioration of the building, it wasn't in a great state to start with, has further declined. So Historic England have put it on their at-risk register. With that, the Borough Council and the support of officers, we've taken out what is called an urgent works notice, so that the landowner is now under notice to come forward with a meaningful plan to carry out the urgent works that are required right now, and more importantly to look at what is possible to sustain the building into the future. If they don't come forward with a meaningful plan within a very short period of time of now, then the Historic England and the Borough Council will step in, carry out those urgent works, ensure the building doesn't deteriorate further, and then charge the cost of those works back to the landowner.
So I've been joined by David, who's got a real family connection to this. David, what does it mean to you and your family, and are you pleased with what the Council and Historic England are doing about this at the minute?
Yeah, we've got a very big family connection here. This is our first family home in Leicestershire. My family comes from Scotland. My great-great-grandfather worked for the Earl of Stamford here. But we're really, really pleased by what the Council are doing, Historic England are doing, and we really, can't say enough for what they're doing to get this building restored, get it back to hopefully the original status, everything. Cannot say thank you enough for what you're doing.
The important thing first is stopping the deterioration, which you've witnessed over the years.
Yes, certainly.
Just getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah.
To the point where if something's not done now by some level, it will be lost forever.
It's going to be lost forever, and I'll say the Council stepping in, Historic England, we can't say thank you enough for what you're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the Heller Homes site in Groby, 30 plus houses, which would automatically generate what's called Section 106 agreement money. And the reason for that is because obviously as a new estate is built, it's important that a developer actually contributes towards infrastructure such as highways, health, and more importantly, open space and play and recreational ground. When the developer agreed to this site and submitted the planning application, they agreed to an amount of £270,000 for Section 106 money. But once the estate was built, they decided that they couldn't afford any of that and had a re-evaluation. That evaluation was, we can't afford anything. So it went from 100% to nothing, which would have meant Groby would have got nothing towards its infrastructure, even though it got the impact of the houses. The officer recommendation at the time when it came back before planning was to reduce the £270,000 down to £55,000, still a £215,000 reduction. Again, thankfully, the planning committee saw through that and decided to impose the full Section 106 agreement money, and that was paid. The important thing with all of this is, of course, if you agree to buy a house and you say you want to spend £300,000 on it, you can't buy it, exchange contracts, and then 6 months later decide that you didn't want to pay that amount, so you'll have an amount back. That's effectively what they were trying to do here. They weren't successful, and Groby got its proper Section 106 money in order to alleviate the impact of this development on the community. Whilst we're here, and a key feature of the planning application was the fence that you can see behind me in all of this land. It's actually called a visibility display. That's important so that people coming into, both pedestrians and vehicles coming into and out of Highway Close can actually see it. As you can see, it's on quite a sweeping bend, quite a dangerous corner. Unfortunately, the County Council and the developer are arguing amongst themselves who was responsible for ensuring that this land was safe. As you can see, it is now, but when you see the pictures I'm about to show you, you'll see that the health and safety, and particularly of pedestrians and cars entering and exiting Highway Close for at least 2 years was very, very dangerous. I hope that the solution's now been found to this, because it was a very much a serious health and safety issue to both the residents of Highway Close and the larger road users, pedestrian and otherwise, out on Leicester Road. I hope you found my tour of Groby there interesting and can see the issues that we face going forward. I can only continue to do this job though if people vote for me on the May the 4th. Now that can be either by turning up to the polling booths, but don't forget to bring your voter ID, or voting by postal vote. A lot of Groby now does that. So May the 4th, please vote Councillor Martin Cartwright. If you do so, then I will be here for another 4 years in order to help you, just as I've done for the last 16. Thank you.